Hello and welcome. What I've got here in front of me is a little miniature I picked up from my local hobby shop around town. He looks to be a vampire of sorts, and I just thought he looked kind of interesting. I've got a color scheme in mind, so it being my first video ever, let's get to it. So we have him primed, and I used just a simple gray primer. I got it at Walmart. Okay, yeah, you can use Citadel. It's probably better, I would suppose, but I don't have the funds at this point to do that. So this gray primer works just fine. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go from the bottom layer up, and when I say that, I mean from the bottom layers of, say, clothing, so skin, shirt, overcoat, that sort of thing. The first color I am going to use is probably, Cadian Fleshtone. I do want him to be sort of pale, so I'll probably go up to maybe a Kislev Flesh and maybe even a Pallid Wych Flesh. But, yeah. Let us throw some paint, if I can get him in the screen here. And I started this channel simply because I love painting miniatures. And I was bored, to be quite honest with you. I wanted to do more with my miniatures, and I know I am not a Golden Demon Award winner by any means, but I do enjoy it, and I think that's all that matters, is you gotta enjoy it and practice. And I just wanted to get more out of it, I guess. So I decided to film it, and I always love watching painting videos. It's always very soothing. And I just find them very serene. So, yep. And, yep. So there's the start of his face, and the rest of his skin will be done, and we'll come back after that. So, if he will come in focus here. There we go. Here he is with his first layer of flesh tone down. You always want to do a couple thin layers rather than one thick layer. I think I globbed it on too thick there, but that'll be okay. You always want to thin down your paints. And some people say the consistency of milk. I tend to disagree. I mean, that's a good guideline. I think it just all depends on the paint, really. Some paints cover better, some paints cover worse. It all depends on what you're trying to do to glazes and stuff like that. So what you want to do is thin your paint down to maybe a milk consistency, I suppose, maybe a little thicker than that, but there we go. There's his flesh done. Next, we are going to move on to his tufted shirt, and I have thought about this, and I think I want it to be like a bright cream color. So what we have here is Wraithbone. One of my favorite cream colors. It goes on a bit thin, but with a few good coats, it looks just nice. So let's get it on the palette and we'll get it cooking. Okay, I've got my Wraithbone down on the wet palette, and I will start filling in his shirt. So what we're going to do, I guess we'll pick a place to start. And at this stage, you can be a little messy with it. Except for, obviously, around the places you've already painted, like here. His skin, you want to be a little careful going around there. So, let's get this color on there, and we will be back. And there is his shirt done. I did a couple of coats. In some places I even did 3 coats. Now, you can see I have been quite messy. I even managed to get some on his hand here. And I was going to clean it up, but I figured I would show you guys my step-by-step in my process. So, I think I just realized something. I think I broke his collar. Look at that. Let's go find it. I cannot seem to find the rest of his collar. So, welcome to it, boys. Budget painting. We are simply going to move on. We could green mold it, but I don't have that kind of skill or patience. So we are just going to paint the rest of them and pretend like he still has a collar. So, the next thing we are going to do is his pants, I believe. I think that is the next layer up. And I wanted something kind of linen-y. Linen-y, is that a word? I wanted something kind of linen-like, but not as bright as the Wraithbone. Because I figured the Wraithbone shirt, I would want to look a little silky. And the pants, I don't want them to be silk. I want them to be made of a little more tougher material. So I'm going to go with like a linen. And for that, I am going to use Rakarth Flesh. It's good all around fabric color, basic fabric color. As always, give your paints a good old shake them undo. There we go. And I will slap some of that on the palette there. Like so. Get some of that on the palette there. A lot of people like to change their Citadel paint into a drop bottle. To me, that's smart. I bet it's easier. Might lose a little bit of paint, but in the end, I don't think it really matters. To me, I'm just too lazy. And I don't mind the Citadel bottles that much. I just scoop it out with my paintbrush. But I digress. Let us get cracking on the pants here. So I guess this is a good time to say what brushes I'm using, and that would be, sorry, left-handed. I am using the Golden Maple 1 as of right now. I have never heard of this company, but I got them for Christmas and they seem to be working just fine. I enjoy them, so I'll probably go back to them unless somebody wants to send me some more. But like I said, let's get going with the pants here. And as always, you can be messy around parts you haven't painted yet, and remember, it's a 3D object. You can move it and turn it and twist it. Oh, move the camera there a little bit and maneuver it whatever way you want to get in those little nooks and crannies. And I have been doing this for just about, I'd say, I really seriously got into it about a year ago. I've been into miniatures for a long time, but I never really knew how to paint them. And they were just atrocious coming out. I didn't thin my paints. I globbed it on in one glob. Everybody knows how it goes their first time painting. Well, that was me. And maybe I haven't improved much. That's a little bit too much there, but that's okay, that'll dry. Maybe I haven't improved much, but I think I've improved. At least a little bit. So, like I said, I started this channel just because I was a little bored. And I wanted to make some cool videos, make some nice, soothing painting videos for people to watch. And as this is my first video, I'll tell you right now, I've got a bum setup, but it's my setup and I love it. I'm at my kitchen table right now, actually. So don't judge me. We listen and we don't judge. All right. Looks like I talked the whole way through the painting process of the pants. So there we are. And let me decide what next to do and we will come back. All right. I had a long, hard thought about what I wanted to do next. I think I'm going to do his boots next. And I also had some thought about what colors I want to use. And I think I've changed my mind. I was thinking, I had this picture in my mind of a purple doublet over some leathers and cloth and whatnot. But I think I'm going to make the doublet a leather color and make the cloak purple. I think that'll stand out more. So, but let's get to the boots. And for the boots, I am using Mornfang Brown. I think it's a good boot color. Give it a good shake here. Slap some on the palette. So, I hope to be making these videos in the future, and I would like to start some days where I do specific things. I do paint a lot of Warhammer, I have a lot of Warhammer. I do Stormcasts, but those are all painted. But I'd like to do something like maybe Age of Sigmar Saturdays or Warhammer Wednesdays, something like that. But let us get back to our little vampire here. And we will do his boots and Mornfang Brown. Now, this is where you want to start being a little careful. Up to those edges. You want to get right up on the edge or it's not going to look natural, but you don't want to hit anything that you have already painted. Seems to be I got a little bit of a shadow in there. Might have to change my camera setup, but oh well, it's my first video. We will learn. We will learn. And if you are looking for tips and tricks, one tip I could always say I am very, capable of doing is not dipping back into my paint on my palette enough. It's there. It's not going back in the pot. So you might as well use it. And I have a tendency to keep going when there's barely any paint on my brush, and I don't know why I do it. But I have been trying my hardest to dip back into my paint when needed. And I think that is a good tip for anybody starting out, is to just use the paint that you're already using. It's already on the palette. It's not going anywhere. So you might as well use it. All right. Let's do the boots, and we will be right back. Here he is with his boots done. Again, Mornfang Brown on those. You always want to get a nice solid coat. Sometimes you got to do two thin coats. It's always better than one thick coat. But yeah, there's his boots. And I think I've changed my mind one more time. I like the idea of the purple doublet. So I think I'm going to make his cloak black to go with that dark, moody feel. But the next thing I'm going to do is his little skirt here. I don't know what you call that. Somebody in the comments can tell me what they call it. Don't get mad at me. But yeah, I'm going to do this right here. And I'm going to do that in Rinox Hide. I think Rinox Hide is a good deep reddish brown. It's got a little bit of red tint in there. It's going to go great for highlights. So let's get to it. I've got some of my palette here. As always, give your paints a good shake, and you want to thin them down just a little bit with water. And let's get to it. So, and while I'm doing this, I will go ahead and say I have an Instagram that I just started, and it will have all the figures I paint on there, plus more. And each little character, little figure that I have is going to have a backstory. I'm not sure about this guy's backstory yet, but if you'd like to know their backstories, then hop on over my Instagram. It'll be linked in the description. As well as all the paints that I used will be linked in the description. Let's get back in the light here. So yeah, we're just going to go over this with a Rinox Hide, making sure you get everything. Again, you want a good base coat. Might have to go over this again, but it should cover real well over that gray. And again, don't be too worried about hitting things you haven't painted yet. You just want to be careful around the things you have painted so far. It's okay to be a little messy at these stages. We will clean it up in the end, the cleanup step, which I save for the end because it's just easier that way. You've got all your paints on the palette. You can dip back into them to clean everything up, and I will show you how I do that after all the base coats are down. All right, so we will paint this in Rinox Hide, and I will see you in a minute. So there he is with the skirt done, and I also did the belt in the same color. I think that would look good. Just like a dark leather color, as well as his little pouch and bag on the side. I think all those would look good as the same kind of leather color. So here he is with that little skirt thingy done. I also did the belt around his waist in Rinox Hide, same color. I think that'll look good, just a dark leather, and his little pouch there as a dark leather. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get on to the fun stuff. We're going to do his doublet, and for that we are using Xereus Purple. It's a nice royal purple, I think. I think it'll look really good. So let's get on it. I've got some on my palette already. Thin it down with some water. Let's load up our brush here. And get to it. So again, no reason to be careful around the stuff you have already painted, or have not already painted, excuse me. But you can be a little messy around the stuff you have already painted. Or have not already painted. Jeez, what's wrong with me? Can't talk today. It's a nice sunny day outside today. It was snowing earlier here in the east coast of the Americas. The United States, I guess I should say. I think I made a mess of that right there. That's okay, we'll go clean it up. I also made a mess of his skirt down there, but that's okay. Again, that's what the cleanup stage is for. You just want to get this purple on there as solid as you can. In some places, like maybe his chest there where it's real nice and flat and smooth, you might want to go over it again with another coat. But Xereus Purple does cover pretty good. Well, if I can get him on camera there. Xereus Purple does cover pretty good, especially over like a light gray. It's a pretty good coverage of a color. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go over that again with a second coat, but let's get the first coat down first. We're gonna come down here. Don't forget about this part down here. being very careful when you come up to that belt there. Just want to get right up to it. You don't want to leave any gray there. It's okay if you splurge over. It's all right. You can go back over it with some Rinox Hide. You just want to make sure that every piece is colored. And I think I'm going to do these skulls in like a brass, maybe like a gold. You know, vampires, they're old and they probably got some money to them, so maybe it's like a gold. You want to get in here too. Don't forget about those places, and also under here. You don't want to leave any of those places out, or it's just not gonna look right. And again, I got a little bit of purple under there, but that is okay. Again, the cleanup stage is coming. So there we go. That's the first coat, and I will put a second coat down, and I will see you in a moment. There he is with his purple doublet. I'm liking that. I do enjoy a good royal purple every now and then. I've made a mess of things here. The cleanup stage is going to be a lot. So I think the next thing we're going to do is move on to his little, I don't know what you call this either, but it's like a little necklace. I don't know. Goes over like this. I think I'm going to do it in like a metal, like a iron or a steel. Just like a, I'll show you what I'm going to do it in. We're going to do it in Leadbelcher. It's a little darker than my taste for this, but we can brighten it up with some highlights afterwards, because I want this guy to be a little bright, as well as being dark and moody, but I want some brightness to him. So I've got some on my palette. I thinned it down with water as always, and we're just going to dip in here. And when you want to do this, you want to roll your brush to get a good point on it, like so. I might need to get a new brush soon, but this one's working just fine for now. But you want a good point on it, and you want to come up here and just lightly tickle it. Tickle it a little bit. That's what you want to do. And this should go down with one coat. Shouldn't need, oh, I've messed up again. Look at that. I'm human. And you want to get up here, and again, I'm just prodding and poking. Just poking that paint in there. You gotta poke it a little bit sometimes. Dab it on there. I think that's good. And I think that is good. I don't think there's any more metal around. I think I'm going to do the skulls and the gold, and then we'll do his cloak. So I will come back and I will show you what color I'm going to use for the adornment of the skulls. So I will see you. Here he is again with that gold, or not that gold, the silver kind of neck piece on. And for the skulls, we are just going to use Retributor Armor, whatever. And we're going to just paint those in. That shouldn't take too much. So let's get a little on the palette. Should have done this before. We don't need a lot. Just a dab will do ya. Yeah, maybe a little more than that. Scoop back in there. Put it down on the palette. And then you just want to poke the water a little bit, since you don't have a lot of paint down there. We're doing a lot of poking this video. Clean your brush off. Also, a lot of people I've seen on the videos and stuff like that, they mention that if you're using metallics in a wet palette, that you should change the water of the wet palette after you use the metallics, because the little metallic flakes will get in there. I've never had a problem with that. Never really seen an instance where I would have to do that. No metallic flakes are coming off. Onto any other paints, so you do what you want with that, but that is some information for you. And also, I guess if you're going to do that, you might want to change your water out after you use the metallics. Again, never had a problem, but I have got this cool little water thing where you press a button and the water empties, and then it will fill back up with water. So I've just started doing that every time I use metallics. It's a little easier than changing all the water, and I will show you that in another video, another short video, and link it in the description. It's pretty cool. My wife got it for me for Valentine's Day. That top there doesn't look like it's filled in enough. There we go. I think that's good right there. That is all the gold, I believe, on him. And I will be right back with the next color. Okay, so here he is again. And we are going to do his cloak next. Because it seems his hair is over his cloak on the top there. So it'll be easier to do his cloak and then slightly just poke his hair right there. So for his cloak, I am going to use an off black, or an off gray, I guess you could say. It's from Vallejo, black gray. And the only reason I'm doing this and not a solid black, a total black, is because it gives it some room for shading, gives it some room for depth. Now this black gray is pretty close to black, but there is a difference. If you want to use Citadel, I would use Eshin gray, or if you just want to do it black, you can use a Abaddon black, any black that you have. I like to do my cloths that are black in a dark gray. I like to do my metal pieces, or my metallic pieces that are black. I like to do those in a true black. I think it just looks better that way. I think cloth looks better if it's not a solid true black. So I am going to spin him around here, and we're going to start on his back. And I have got me a slightly larger brush here, and this is just something you can pick up in your stationery aisle at any department store, really. I got these at Wally World. Come with a set. They're pretty good. They're good for a lot of things, actually. You can ruin them, too. You don't got to be careful with them at all. Little synthetic brushes. So here we go. We're just gonna glob this all over his cloak. And I've switched to a bigger brush here, but I will switch down to a smaller brush once I get to those tiny details around the stuff I've already painted. But for now, we are going to just go all over his cloak with this. And it will dry a bit darker than this too. You can see that gray in there, but it will dry. It will dry a little darker, but it still leaves some room for shading because it is not a true black. All right, I'm not going to risk going up there by the arm yet. Switch down my smaller brush for that, but we can do down here where there is nothing painted. Yeah, so let's just get this color on there, and I will be back after that. Here he is with his black cloak done, and I didn't have to go over it again anywhere. This color covers pretty good. That's one coat right there. Especially over that light gray, it covered all right. I did make a mess right there on his pouch, and also made a mess on his face. And if you come around here, made a little bit of mess on his sleeve. But that is okay. That is what the cleanup stage is for. And I will show you the cleanup stage this time, so you can see what it's like. And what's next? His hair, I guess. I didn't really think about the color of his hair, but I was thinking about it when I was painting his cloak, and I think like a blonde, like a bright blonde would be good. Here he is with that black cloak done. I didn't have to go over it again anywhere. That's one coat. That color covers pretty well. Did I miss a spot right there? I think I did. I'll have to go back over that. I'll do that on the cleanup stage. I did mess up on his face there, and I did mess up on the pouch. But again, that is what the cleanup stage is for. So I hadn't decided on his hair, but I was thinking about it when I was doing the cloak. I think I wanted it to be blonde, like a bright blonde. So I got some on the palette there. And, oh, yeah, what color we're going to use for that is Averland Sunset. I think that's a good blonde color, and especially when it's shaded. So, let's get to it. Load up your brush here. I've thinned it down with some water as always. And we will get to it. You gotta be very careful. This is the last base coat. And I'm gonna start at the most difficult point to get that out of the way. I feel like I'm gonna mess this up. But we will prevail. That's okay. Alrighty, I think I'm going to do this off camera. I think it's going to be a little easier to do that, but yeah. So we will paint his hair blonde, and we'll be back. So there's his blonde hair done, and don't forget about his bushy eyebrows. I think that is all of the base coats. I am going to paint his eyes. Now, I'm not very good at eyes, so please forgive me while I mess them up. And his teeth. I think I'm going to do that. Let me pick out what color, and I'll be right back. All right. Didn't really take me long to decide what color to use. I was thinking about using a ivory, but I think it would look better if it's just a solid, true white. So for his teeth and his eyes, I am going to use White Scar. It's pretty solid white. So I've got here a size 4-0 of the golden maple. Sorry, I'm left-handed, it's upside down. Very tiny. You want to get a good point on it. Dip it in. I've thinned this down just a little more than I usually would regular paints, just because I want it to just flow off my brush pretty good. So we got about that much on there. And let's do the eyes first, because I feel like those will be a little more difficult. And I might do this off camera, but you just want to slightly poke it. Oh, I've made a horrible mess of that. That's okay. We'll go back and we'll fix it. And we'll do the other one. Awful. Terrible. Again, it's okay. We will go back and fix it. And then for his teeth, you just want to take maybe the edge of your brush or the side of your brush and kind of just wipe it off. Sorry, I'm concentrating here. Teeth came out okay. Perfect. Maybe not perfect, but we'll fix it. All right, there's his eyes and his teeth, and we will start the cleanup stage next. All right, so the first step of the cleanup stage, I think I'm going to do his skin, because I think that's going to be the most difficult to clean up with his eyes and everything. So what I've got is some more Cadian Fleshtone, and I'm sticking with my size 4-0 brush to do this. Dip on in there. Again, I've thinned this paint down just a tiny bit. And we want to go in here and just fix the mistakes that we've made. And I might have thinned that down a little too much. All right, we are getting to the point where we are almost done with the base coats. Well, we are done with the base coats. We're just doing the cleanup stage now. But let's see where else. His hand right here. See, all you gotta do to make a mini look that much better is to go back in and do a little bit of cleanup. So I will be right back, because some of these places are going to be easier to get off camera. So I will be right back. All right, there. So his skin is cleaned up. I think the next thing we're going to do is the dark leather. I still got some Rinox Hide on my palette here, so we're going to dip right back into that. And just where you've made mistakes, go back in and clean them up. Easy as that. And I've got some purple on there too up top there. I'll clear that up. If I can get him on camera. Sorry guys, first video. It'll get better. Stick with me. But yeah, that's all we want to do. There is some purple on his belt there, I believe. Again, you can turn him sideways, turn him upside down. He's a 3D object. Now I know that this is a obscure figure that I just picked up from my local hobby shop, but these paint schemes and tips will come in handy whenever you're painting anything, really. So there he is. That is the dark leather cleaned up, and we will come back and we will clean up I think the pants next. So for his pants, I dip back into my Rothgar? No. Rakarth Flesh. Why couldn't I think of that? So here we go. There's some little dots down here we need to clean up. And again, I think that the cleanup stage is the most important stage of making a miniature look good. It is also the most boring stage, in my opinion. So, do what you will with that. I think that's it for the pants. All right, I think I'm going to clean up everything off camera, but you get the picture. So just go back, clean up your figure, and all right, here he is done with the base coats and the cleanup, and I also dotted in some black in his eyes. He looks like a doofus. I'm not good at eyes. Please don't judge me. We listen and we don't judge. But there he is, and I've almost forgot one thing. I think it's a detail that's going to make it pop, and that is the little rope, little clasps, little ties, I guess, right here. And I think I'm going to do that in a Wraithbone, same color as his shirt. I think that'll make it pop. And what you want to do is load zip up on your brush. Again, I'm sticking with my size 40. I got a little bit too much on my brush, but that is okay. We can wipe it off here. And you want to turn them sideways however you want. Okay, get on camera here. And you just want to, with the side of your brush, just kind of starting real gently, see where your paint's gonna go, and just fill them in like that. Oops. It's all right. Let's see. I think that works right there for that. Gotta clean up that purple there that I smudged over on. And then we're gonna do the same for those two ties on his doublet. So just turn them sideways, upside down, however you want. And with the side of your brush, just lightly perfect by any means, but I think it'll do. So let me clean up that purple real quick, and we'll be back with the wash. So again, here he is all cleaned up, and those ties are done, and the next thing we're going to do is shade it. I'm going to use a mixture of Lamia Medium, which is just like a shade with no pigment, and it kind of just thins down the shade. And I recommend always thinning down your shades unless you really want it to look dirty. But I recommend always thinning down your shades because you don't want it to stain the colors too much. And I've mixed that with 1 part Nuln Oil. That's 3 parts Lamia Medium and 1 part Nuln Oil, because I don't want his clothes to be stained, but I do want to get in there with the recesses. And I'm not sure how it's going to look on his skin, but we will go over and highlight his skin later. So let us just start running it all over here and see. Now if I had not thinned it down, these would be darkening those colors by quite a bit. You don't always want to do that. So we will just glob this all over. I might have to get some more mixture in there because I'm running out already. So there we go. And we'll be back. So here he is with that shade on. I just put it on, still very wet. And what you want to do after you put the shade on is put it somewhere nice and dry, maybe a sunny place outside, and you want to leave him for about 30 to 45 minutes. You don't want to go back to painting him when it's still wet. And also I wanted to show you while you're putting your shade on, to make it look a little better, you want to wipe away the excess where it pools. Maybe if you can, move it to another place. You don't want it to pool. And that's why, another reason, you should always thin down your washes. But yeah, so there he is, washed, and we will leave him to dry for about 30 to 45 minutes, and we will come back. So here he is after the wash is on, and to me, it just brings it all together. You've got your depth, but you don't have the colors stained like you would if you did not thin your washes down. And though it was a black cloak, I think it added a little bit of depth to it there. But yeah, it's all in the recesses, but your main thing is you don't want your colors to be stained. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to the first highlight, and we're going to highlight his skin, and we are going to be using Kislev Flesh for that. I think that's the first jump up from Cadian Fleshtone, and since we're going up so pale, or I want to go up so pale, I think jumping up to the first highlight on his skin is going to be the best option. I'm using my size 4-0. I've got some paint on my wet palette there, my makeshift wet palette, and thinned it down a little bit. And what we want to do is just catch most of his face, but we're going to skip over that recess there. And we're just gonna highlight up there his jawline, or his mouth line. This is his jawline. Find it easy. You can flip them and turn them. And you can just run your brush, kind of angle it. Run your brush just along that jawline there. That's going to add a lot of depth to the face. You can add as much as this as you want. You just don't want to fill in those recesses with this. And again, dip back into your paint whenever you can. We're going to take a little bit off of that paintbrush there. We're going to get his ear right here. And we're just lightly running it over. You just want to catch the very edges. Yep, there we go. And then up here on his forehead, you want to get right up to the recesses, right up to his hairline, but not all the way. See if I can zoom him out. There we go. I think that's a little clearer there. And then again with his hands, you want to get obviously the raised points, the back of his fingers here. And what I'm doing is I'm just lightly using the side of my brush to just fill in his fingers, the back of his knuckles here. Get back into my paint, maybe run down the side of his hand here. And then here on the front, we've got these two fingers. I could probably do with some highlights. We've got that. And his thumb, don't forget about the thumb. And then we'll put a little bit on his palm there. Give it more depth. So I think I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, but you get the point. And I will be back in a minute. So there is the first highlight of Kislev Flesh on his skin, and as you can see, it kind of adds a lot of character to the face and his hands. I think we're going to go up one step further, and what I'm going to do is not use an actual full-blown color, but let me get it out here. We are going to use, yes, this one, Pallid Wych Flesh, and we're not going to use it straight out of the pot. What we're going to do is we're going to mix a little bit in with the Kislev Flesh. So let me shake it up, and I'll get on the palette, and I'll be right back. So there is the first highlight of Kislev Flesh. And as you can see, it adds a lot of depth and character to the face and the skin in general. The next color I am going to use for the highlight of the skin, and I usually wouldn't highlight the skin again, but I did want him to be very pale. So the next color I am going to pull out is Pallid Wych Flesh. It's very light compared to Kislev Flesh, which is more obviously a more beige flesh tone. So what I did, I took a little bit out of the Pallid Wych and I mix it in with the Kislev Flesh. So let me get him back in focus here. I don't know why it's red tinted like that, but we'll go with it. And I mix it in with the Kislev Flesh, and I think that gives it a more natural transition of a highlight. So you just want to go inside that first Kislev Flesh highlight, just the very edges, tip of the nose there, maybe the top of the brow, just a tiny bit, and then his mouth line here, very gently. A little bit too much there, but that is okay. That's why we mixed it in, give it a nice transition. Yeah, and on his chin here, oops, I think I splurged over, that's okay. I want to get his cheek here. And obviously, let me dip back in here real quick. We're gonna get that corner, the corner of his jawline right here. If I can, oh, there's a little fuzz on my brush. Let's get that off of there. All right, we're back at it. We're gonna get his jawline. I think I'm gonna turn him sideways like this. And just kind of dab it on there. Yeah, don't forget about his ears, or his ear showing. Wipe a little bit of that off. You want to get the very top edges that are sticking out, and I would say it's usually the top of his ear, but this, he's got a very defined ear, so we'll do that right there. And I think I will do the rest of his skin off camera, but if I can get him in focus here, that is the first and the last highlight of his skin. Be right back. There is the last highlight for his skin tone using the Pallid Wych Flesh and the Kislev Flesh mixture. Next, we are going to go up to his silky shirt there, and for that, we're just going to go back to a Wraithbone. We're just going to fill in the creases and the folds. Got some on my palette here. I've thinned it down with some water. I've got my size 4.0 still. And what you want to do is find the raised areas, such as this right here. If I can bring them into focus here. And we will just go back over those raised areas, and you just want to leave that Nuln Oil in the recesses, so it'll create more depth and kind of just pop on the table. You can do as much of this as you want. I usually just catch the main areas. So I think I'm gonna wipe some of that off there. Just the tips of things. And then you want to get maybe his elbow. And just go around the whole miniature and just fill in all those raised areas of his shirt, where the light will hit it. And I always go for a light angle of about 45 degrees coming from the top right corner. Oop. Uh-oh. It happens. All right, I will be back. So there he is with his shirt highlighted, and I think that adds a lot of depth to it. Those folds and creases. I also went and did his ties on his doublet and his skirt thing. Next, we are going to go to his pants, his trousers there. These have a lot of folds, and we are going to go back to Rakarth Flesh for that. And we're just gonna lighten it up just a little bit more. I've got some on my palette here, thinned down already. And yep, come on in, focus there, buddy. And we are just gonna go over the raised areas and flat areas of his pants all the way up. Not quite to the recess there, but you just want to get these folds, especially the creases. Well, I'm not even looking at the camera. Especially those creases coming out of his boot there. Those just look better. Looks better when those creases are lighter. But yeah, so you just want to go over this, go over his pants. Not a lot to do here. I don't know why it is not focusing. Let me try to figure out my camera here, guys. Be right back. So I think I figured it out. Maybe. Yeah. So what you want to do is just go over these creases, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted. And dip back into your paint here. Yeah, you want to get up under there too. And I think that is all. I will be back with the next color we're going to use. So, good news, I think I figured out why my camera was not focusing, and it was because my thumb was in the way. Look at that. Look at that. You learn something new every day. So let's try to keep my thumb out of the way. And the next color we are going to is Doombull Brown. I think it's going to be a good jump from the Rinox Hide, which is already a kind of a deep brown with a slightly reddish tint to it. Doombull Brown has a more reddish tint to it, and I think it just looks good for old worn leather. And this is going to be a little tricky. I think I'm going to do his pouch first, because that's going to be the easiest. So let's see. You just want to run it. Just want to run your brush. Use the side of it where you can. And sometimes you just got to use the tip. But or you can just use the side of your brush and run it across there. And some people like to put little creases in the leather. And I think that looks good too. Something like that. Let's get his belt, and this is probably going to be the trickiest part, because you just want to get on the edges of his belt, but you don't want to splash over onto his doublet. So let's see if we can do that or not. Oh, I'm gonna make a mess of things. Still gotta fix that right there. I don't know what I was doing. But that's okay, at least it's black. Yep, I think I got that part pretty good. Let's try the other part. Let's try the other half of the belt here. And I'm just kind of, I'm just very gently rubbing the side of my brush where I can, Using the tip of it where I can. Yep, made a mess of things there. It happens. Yep. Okay. I think that was good. And then let's get his skirt. I keep calling it a skirt. I don't think it's a skirt. But what you can do is turn him upside down here. Get him in camera. Get him in the light. And you can just, if I can get the angle right here. Yep, we're working on it. And just rub the side of your brush gently across there like that. Get the other side. Ooh, maybe a little too much. Maybe a little too much, that's okay. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna do that off camera, but you get the point. We will be right back. There he is with the leather done. Not perfect, but it'll do. Next, we're going to do his boots. And for that, we are going to use Bugman's Glow. It's just a lighter brown color that I have here. Probably go with maybe Scrag Brown. But yeah, we're going to use Bugman's Glow. I've got some on my palette. Let me thin it down a little bit. Not that much. I thinned that down a little too much, but we're going to work with it, I think. Maybe. Let's see. See how it comes off on the glove here. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. I've never actually used Bugman's Glow as a highlight color for leather. It's more of a flesh tone to me, like a tan flesh tone, but maybe that's what we're looking for here. It's always fun to experiment with things, and yeah, I think it's gonna come off. I think it's gonna come off nice. I'm gonna be careful. What you do, once you get the upper fold here around his pants. Yeah, I put way too much water in this. I'm gonna have to come back. All right, now that travesty of a paint is now fixed, let's load up our brush again. You want to just catch all those raised creases. Yep, get all up in there. All right, and I think I'm going to do the rest of this off camera because it's not going well. We'll be back. There's his boots done, and I probably could have done a little better on that, to be honest with you, but that paint was not working with me very well. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to his purple doublet, and I wanted it to be a little brighter than what it is now. So I was thinking about going up to a Genestealer Purple, but I think it's going to be too bright for the first layer. So what I did is I mixed Genestealer Purple with Xereus Purple a little bit, probably about a 1-to-1 ratio. And I put it on my wet palette here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix them both together there until I like the color. I'm going to get a little lighter in there. Yep, and then I'm not a big fan of mixing paints. I mean, I do it, but I like to keep a good solid alone colors, I guess you can say. I don't like to mix paints, is what I'm saying. But sometimes you got to. So we're going to take that and we're going to load up our brush. And we're going to come here and we're going to go over his purple doublet. And you want to get right up to those creases, those recesses. But you don't see right here is a recess. You're going to skip that and you can just go over here, do something like that. And you just want to go around everywhere and put this purple down where you want the purple, which is his doublet. And again, this is a little miniature I've picked up. I don't expect anybody else to have it. Unless you know where to get this, then you can shout them out in the comments, because I have no idea. They just had these little figures in a box at my hobby shop, and I went through them and I found this guy and he was cool. I don't know where he's from, so if anybody can recognize where this guy is from, maybe what set he's from, I would absolutely love that. Maybe what company makes him, if anybody recognizes him. But I have not a clue. I think we're going to fill all that in right there. Make it a little bit brighter. And I think we're going to go up to Genestealer Purple on the edge highlights. So yeah, just go around everywhere on the purple doublet, which I think I've almost got it all right now. And do your first layer of that purple. Just like that. And we'll be back. There he is again with that purple doublet done. And the next color we're going to go up to for that purple, for the edge highlights, is Genestealer Purple. So I've slapped some more on my palette here. And I will get I'm using my size 4-0 now. You want a real good point on it, on your brush. And you want to find all the very sharp edges of his doublet. And if I can get the correct angle here, I can show you. You just, again, when you're doing edge highlights, where you can, that's a chunky highlight, rub your brush or use the side of your brush to just skim across the edges like that. Yep. So I'll keep him here, load up my brush a little more. Edge highlights are always going to be your most time consuming, I think. But it is going to be that step that really brings it all together, really makes it pop on the table. So you don't want to skip it. You want to do some edge highlights, especially on like brighter colors like this purple. You're going to want to do some edge highlights. See? It's very subtle on camera, but it definitely makes a difference. So we will go around. I will do the edge highlights on my purple doublet, and we will be back. There's his purple doublet done. And again, that's very subtle on camera, but in the real world, you can see it pretty well. But yeah, you just want to do some edge highlights on those. The next color we're going to go to is Stormhost Silver, and that's going to be for his little neck piece under his clasp. So I've got some on the palette there. I've got some water in it. I've thinned it down. I've got my size 4-0 brush still. Load it up, and this is not going to take very long. So what you want to do is just fill in all those raised areas that you want to stand out. So in the middle there, that would be those little indentions, and then you can turn them this way. And again, use the side of your brush to just skim along there. Oops. And that is done. Just like that. Now, I could go up under his chin, but I really don't want to mess this up. So let's try. Let's try to do it. You know, what's a little bit of risk? Risk and reward here. Because I do want that to stand out a little bit. So let's see if we can get up in there and just kind of poke and prod it. Yeah, that looks all right. There. So that is that done, and I will be back with the next color that we are going to use. The next color we are going to go to is going to be Liberator Gold, and that's going to be for his clasps and that skull. I still got the price tag on there. It's $4.55 when I bought it. So we're going to load up the brush here. I've got it on my palette, thin down, as always, and this is not going to take long at all. So we'll go up here, and you don't want to get into the recesses, so you just want to kind of lightly get those raised areas and the edge of the clasp, and this will really make it shiny. Liberator Gold is a real shiny gold. It's a real pale kind of gold. So it'll make that Retributor Armor really shine. Here on the skull, you want to get that skull, the skull brows, the forehead, maybe the tip of the nose outline there, and his teeth. Yep. There we go. And that's done. All right. So the last thing we're going to do is going to be the highlight on his hair. And I've debated on what technique to use. I was thinking about dry brushing, but I think I'm going to use dry brushing. I'm going to do a whole video on dry brushing. And again, his hair is it doesn't cover that much of an area, so dry brushing may not be the best technique. It might be the easiest technique, but it's probably the more messy technique. So what I'm going to do here is I got my size 40 brush. I've got some, here we go back to it. Averland Sunset, just the color we used for his hair. And we are going to, I got it thinned down. And what we're going to do is load up our brush, like so. And we're going to take a lot of that off. We're going to get a lot of that paint off. Yeah, something like that. All right, so what you want to do is kind of take do it on top of his head here. Take your brush and do the side of the brush, the edge, or the side of it, and just kind of lightly run it across the tops of those raised areas. You can go against the, this is sort of like dry brushing. It's just a littler, tinier version of dry brushing. You don't want a lot on your brush, and you don't want to press down too hard, because you want to keep those recesses, darker. So if you just run your brush against some of this grain here, you're going to get a decent highlight. And I think that is good enough. Yep. So we'll be right back with the finished product. I'm going to give him a matte varnish spray. I'm not going to do his base yet, but I will show you how to do some bases in another video that I make. Actually, I think I might paint his base just to have it a uniform color and not be all messy down there. I might paint it in maybe an Eshin gray, a stone color of some sort. and give it a wash. But again, I'll do bases on another video. I don't think we're going to do anything with his cloak. I think that's good how it is. You could put some highlights on that, but I am terrible at highlighting black fabric and stuff. So I think I'm just going to leave his cloak black like that. I think it makes it dark and moody, but I think that purple doublet and the gold kind of makes it shiny and kind of rich looking. So yeah, let me go pop a matte varnish on him, and I will show you what varnish I use when I come back, and we'll see how he looks. And there he is, all done. I've popped a matte varnish on him. I use the let me put this right in front of the figure there for a minute. I used Tamiya Color for plastics. I used a flat clear. So yeah, he's done, and it doesn't look too shabby. And if you liked it, please like the video. And if you want to see more videos and see when I come out with more videos, just subscribe. Yeah, that'd be great. And everybody, happy painting.